All right, welcome back to ABA exam review and the continuation of our BCBA task list series. Today we're continuing behavior change procedures with equivalence-based instruction. Equivalence-based instruction, or G12, is building on stimulus equivalence, which we've already discussed. So stimulus equivalence includes reflexivity, symmetry, and transitivity. Now, these two items can be very difficult at first because if you look in Cooper, this chapter is extremely complex. But what we're going to do here and what we're going to do for our exam and even in practice is simplify it so we can actually use these ideas. All we mean when we talk equivalence-based instruction is relationships between stimuli. We teach relationships between stimuli, and then we hope our learners create new relationships that are untrained. And that is the essence of equivalence-based instruction. As always, subscribe if you have not already. Check out behavioranalyststudy.com for all of our study materials. When you pass, let us know so we can include you in the Sunday shout out. Work hard, study hard. Let's get going. All right, so quick refresher on equivalence or stimulus equivalence. Our three ideas are reflexivity, symmetry, and transitivity. As you can see, when we talk equivalence, we're talking relationships between stimuli. A equal to A, so identical matches. Stimulus A has a relationship with stimulus A. They're identical. Symmetry, reversibility. A equals B, therefore B equals A. This is their relationship. This is the relationship between those stimuli. And then transitivity, the highest level of stimulus equivalence. These are stimuli that were never presented together, but end up forming a relationship. So if A has a relationship with B, and B has a relationship with C, therefore A is going to have a relationship with C. And so you'll always see it written, or typically see it written, A equals B. But if you think of it as in terms of A has a relationship with B, and B has a relationship with C, therefore A has a relationship with C, it might make a little more sense. But again, it's going to be individualized, whatever helps you remember it. This is just our refresher because this is what we're working towards, right? When we talk about stimulus equivalence, we're looking for derived or emergent relationships, meaning if we teach A equals B, we want that relationship B equals A to just come about without teaching. That's stimulus equivalence, that's emerged, that's derived. So let's get into it. With that said, pause it and really understand first reflexivity, symmetry, transitivity before you try to tackle equivalence-based instruction. Because when we talk about instruction, these are the three ideas that we're going to be teaching. Understand these ideas first and then move on. I always tell everybody, just like I preach that we need to focus on the foundational, simple concepts, functions and reinforcement and punishment and shaping. These really easy ideas are the foundation for everything else. Reflexivity, symmetry, and transitivity are the foundation for equivalence-based instruction. With that said, let's talk about equivalence-based instruction. With EBI, we're using ABA teaching methods. And if you've been studying a while, you're going to start to notice everything starts to come together. Everything is related. All we have is a bunch of different science, a bunch of different technologies that interact with each other in order for us to provide services. So equivalence-based instruction, we're using ABA teaching methods to help learners form relationships among stimuli. Now, when might we need relationships among stimuli? Well, just think about categories. Think about animals. All those different animals, which aren't necessarily formally the same, birds and tigers really have nothing in common, but they have a relationship. They're all animals. There are so many different stimuli relationships that we don't even consider anymore, as adults, because they're just so natural to us, that we might have to explicitly work on. And so this is what equivalence-based instruction does. And as you start to form more relationships between stimuli, that's going to expand other categories and relationships for unlearned stimuli, which is the whole point. So let's look at table 19.2 from Cooper, which I really like. When we talk about equivalence-based instruction, we want to start to teach discriminations and conditional discriminations. And so when we do that, we're going to have a sample stimulus, right? So if our sample stimulus, which might be what we present, is A1, and let's say the item in bold is what we're teaching. Our comparison stimuli is what we want our learner to match to. So the sample stimulus is A1, and your teaching equals B1. Okay, so you might teach that relationship just like you would anything else, right? You would teach match to sample using discrete trial training. This is clearly discrete trial. We have a bunch of trials in a row. You might teach it naturally. Either way, you're teaching this relationship. Now, if we want equivalence, we want B1 to equal A1 without teaching. And that's equivalence. That's how we teach stimulus equivalence. It's as simple as that. It's relationships between stimuli. I have a green card and a green crayon. I want to teach those are similar. And then the reverse, I want that to be derived. So there's different ways to do it. As we said, we can use matching to sample and then test for equivalence. So A1 to B1, B1 to C1, then we test that A1 equals C1, testing for transitivity. We can combine stimuli to use as the sample, so we can use more than one sample stimulus at a time, or you can use specific reinforcement for specific responses. So A1 to B1 might receive a token, whereas A1 to B2, if we were teaching that, let's say, might receive 5 minutes on the iPad. There are different ways to teach these equivalences, but at the end of the day, what you need to remember is we're just teaching like we teach all our other skills. This just sounds more complex because of the ideas we're using. Now, to expand a little more, trying to reinforce the idea in your head, equivalence-based instruction, stimulus equivalence, is about relationships among stimuli. What are the relationships we're teaching among our stimuli in our world? When you teach, you want to test for emergent relations. Emergent relations are untaught. Again, if you teach A2 to B2, you're going to test for emergent B2 to A2. You haven't taught that. Now, again, from Cooper, I think this is a good diagram of different types of equivalences. We have a dime, it's 10 cents, it's a dime, or it's 2 nickels. So you might have this one sample stimulus, and then you have your other stimuli. Or you might have multiple, remember, we have our sample stimulus, and you have a single comparison. So you might have A1, B1, C1, however you want to write it out, right? But they all equal D1. And so if they all equal that, then 10 cents is going to eventually equal a dime. Pause there. Don't let that confuse you. That should make it simple. We have different stimuli. What are the relationships we're teaching? And then when we teach those relationships, what further relationships are being formed? And then you can teach it linearly, right? Linearly, right? We have a dime, which is 10 cents, which is the word dime, which is a nickel. All these ways work, right? We can teach however works for us, however works for our client, however we're going to meet our goal. Don't overthink equivalence and stimulus equivalence and equivalence-based instruction. What is your relationships among your stimuli? That is G12, equivalence-based instruction. Now, don't get overwhelmed here. If this is a difficult topic for you, that's okay. Let's move on to something else and we'll come back to it, okay? The most important piece here is first understanding stimulus equivalence, right? Those 3 variables, we have reflexivity, symmetry, and transitivity. And then how are we going to teach those and test those, okay? You might teach a relationship and then you test for that emerged or derived relationship. What are the relationships between the stimuli? Keep that in your head when you think stimulus equivalence. All right, thank you for watching. Be sure to subscribe for all of our updates. We've released a task list video on Sundays, and we're trying to get them out as quickly as possible so we can get through the 5th edition before the 6th edition comes out. Be sure to check out behavioranalyststudy.com. The link is in the comments below. Whenever you pass, let us know so we can include you in the Sunday shout out. Work hard, study hard. See you soon.